All in Sports Network. We love sports.
It is Tuesday, February 4th, right here on your daily fix for all things Texas Longhorns. This is All in Horns, brought to you by Rogue Sports Network. I'm Tanner Carlson. That is Jake Jimerson. Welcome to a new week of Texas talk right here. And Jake, it was a big weekend for basketball for both the men's and the women's teams. And then we also got some news of Tashard Choice getting an interview or getting interest from the Dallas Cowboys to be their next running back coach after their hiring of Brian Schottenheimer. Now they've got an offensive coordinator, defense coordinator. They're starting to get their staff together, trying to poach Tashard Choice. There are other coaching moves within the college football world. If we have time to somewhat discuss it, maybe we will, maybe we won't. But we will discuss the Tashard Choice staying at the University of Texas and declining that Dallas Cowboy job offer that he received. And so, or at least got the interview to do that. So, Jake, let's go ahead, get into it. It was a big weekend. Don't want to talk about professional basketball quite yet. I know you're going to bring it up. So
I did kind of want to look at that, but we can save that for later.
Yeah, thanks a lot. Yeah. So, but we will get there eventually. Probably by the end of this episode. I probably won't be able to hold it in that long. But for anybody who needs to know, I'm a Dallas sports fan. I'm going through it right now. So just thoughts and prayers.
Yeah, thoughts and prayers. We'll go through the story later. I'll save that. I'll start out with Tashard Choice. We'll start out with some positives.
Appreciate it.
This is a big time retention by the offensive or by the whole staff for the Longhorns, and obviously Sarkisian. You know, a lot of talk went into his extension. A lot of misinformation was put out about his extension. People calling it a long-term extension. It was really just a year extension and a raise, which he did earn undoubtedly through the play on the field. But it was also, as we talked about, and there were others who talked about, of course, but it was also about getting raises for his allotment that is given to him to give to his assistant coaches. And it's because he knew retention was going to be even harder as they continue to have more and more success on the field. And keeping coordinators is one thing, right? You know, sometimes it's difficult. Ohio State, sometimes you're able to retain them. He made a great hire with PK, and someone, I think he hired him because he's like, I bet I can retain him. I also think he's a really good coordinator, and he's been able to do that. But keeping positional coaches is where it's normally even harder because they're getting offers to for sure go up. As Tashard Choice, getting an offer or at least looks at the NFL, interview with the Cowboys. I know the Saints and Raiders were interested in him as well. And Sark just goes, look, you're going to have to take a pay cut as is to do that. I understand if you want to go to NFL, but I can offer you more money now, which is what happened. He's apparently getting a very substantial raise.
And he deserves it, does he not?
Yes. With his recruiting. And this is why I talked about, it's like, I'm a Cowboys fan. It's like, well, why don't you want to be because I think positional coaches have far more impact at the college level than they do the pro level, because of recruiting specifically. And development it's important in the NFL, no doubt. It's even more important in college.
There's a bigger jump from a high school senior to a college sophomore, junior, whenever they're ready to go to the next level and play at the NFL level, than there is from one of the higher touted talents in an NFL draft coming up going into the NFL. You see running backs make rookie impacts, year 2 impacts, year 3 impacts within that 4-year window of their rookie contract far more often than you see some freshman running back taking the reins of a college football program and being the workhorse underneath that system. And so I think, like, to your point, Jake, you can make a better jump in terms of a faster jump in terms of going from college to pro than you do from high school to college. And Tashard Choice, I think his specialty is getting that age range from high school to college and developing these players into getting prepared for the NFL. And I'm not saying he wouldn't be just as good as an NFL running backs coach, because I believe he would be. I believe he also just wants to kind of just be where he is for a moment and develop as a coach as well, and learn a little bit more under Sark until he's maybe ready not just to be a positional coach at the NFL, maybe an offensive coordinator.
Yeah, and there's connections that these coaches get with the players, and I know he's really close with this running back room. Wisner and Blue and obviously Baxter, Gibson, all these guys, Clark. He's the one who's recruited
even incoming guys.
Yeah, and the incoming freshman class, which is extremely talented, because that's what Texas keeps doing at the running back position with Tashard Choice. And so being able to retain him from NFL teams is really impressive by Sarkisian. Tells you how much Coach Choice does think of this program, because yes, he's getting paid more money, but still to turn down NFL jobs, which is the most coveted coaching jobs in all of football. It just is. Like, every coach will tell you the NFL is more coveted than college.
Well, Jake, there's 32 coaching offers for either positions, offensive coordinators, head coaches. There's only 32 of those at the NFL level. There are hundreds upon hundreds at the college level, maybe not the Division I level, but throughout all of colleges that have football programs, there are position coaching jobs available, offensive coordinator jobs available, head coaching jobs available throughout the entire country every single year. It's a huge turnover, way more than the handful you're going to get at the NFL level.
Yeah. And so just to me, this staff has so far this offseason pulled off a complete masterclass of retention, both at the roster level and the staff level. And keeping Tashard Choice at the end is really the cherry on top, because he is obviously one of the most loved positional coaches at Texas. I'm sure there would have been an overreaction from the fan base if he left, which is more to the respect that he has gained just as a running backs coach. But also it tells you how much Sarkisian values him, because I think the reported raise was in the 600,000 range. The raise
for a position coach, that is substantial.
That is about as big of a raise as you can imagine.
Just real quickly, Jake, then we'll move to basketball. Is the retention of the coaching staff and the players that are coming in, and obviously there's Arch Manning, the Arch Manning factor as well, but the retention of the coaching staff and college, I think more than any other level, is vital to a team's continued consistent success in terms of getting to a Final Four, getting to a national championship appearance, or getting to a conference championship appearance, whatever, what have you. Do you think that's why Texas right now is favored to win the SEC and also second best odds to win the national championship going into 2025, even with the amount of roster turnover there's going to be from the college to NFL level?
No, I think that's Arch Manning.
You think it's solely you don't think the retention of the coach of the coaching staff that's in place, that doesn't go into play into it?
Not in this scenario. I think if the quarterback coming next year was
Trey Owens,
who would also be a first-time full-time starter, even if he'd looked just as good as Manning, like roles reversed, Trey Owens has been the backup the whole year, has the same exact look, stats, everything as Arch Manning did this year, and was a 5-star recruit, maybe not the number 1 overall recruit, but a 5-star recruit, just like Manning. So same situation, just switch the names. Texas would not be the number 1 favorite. Now, that's all I need. I think the staff plays into it. I think it would play into them being still very highly ranked.
They'd be top 10,
but yeah, not to the level that it is. That's the Arch Manning effect. But the retention's really important, but at the same time, head coach is always the most important position. And Nick Saban proved that more than anyone else, because Alabama was swapping out coordinators every year because they were losing people. I mean, every single year. And if you got the right head coach, the right culture, that kind of takes care of it itself.
Just look at Ohio State.
Yeah. To me, yeah. I mean, Ohio State's going to reload at coordinators. I have no doubt. And for Texas, to me, keeping them, these coaches is a sign of the culture of the program, how big of a job Texas is, how much money they're able to offer, and just not only the culture within the program, but the connection between the players and the coaches as well. And Sarkisian's job of hiring guys that he trusts to not just be there to be a one and done.
Yeah. Agreed. All right, Jake, let's swap over to the basketball ranks. Texas men's basketball, we'll start there, then we'll finish with the women's. Completely two dominant performance by both the men's and the women's over the weekend. On Saturday, though, it was Texas beating LSU in their biggest SEC victory in terms of margin of victory that we've seen in the short time that Texas has been in the SEC. An 89-58 win over LSU at LSU, no less. Now, yes, LSU is 1-7 in conference play. They're not a great team, but still a big win for Texas in terms of their ability to stay alive this season and possibly make a little bit of a run through the SEC tournament into March Madness tournament. But Jake, 89 points is the highest amount of points scored for Texas in conference play.
Yeah, I mean, when you take into consideration that this team has been hitting its stride more and more as the season has come on, to me, this performance means more than just beating a team that is now 1-7 in conference play, but has been more competitive against basically everyone. I think this is LSU's biggest blowout loss in conference play. I mean, they only lost by 7 to Alabama, and that game was close for a lot of it. Lost by 11 to A&M, lost by 13 to Auburn. So they, had been within single digits to, 12 to 15 points against most teams. And then Texas just blows the life out of them, which is something this team had not done so far. Granted, they've played about the toughest slate imaginable to this point. But when you consider that we were just talking about how much better basketball they were playing, especially on the offensive end, like them starting to run a real offense, they had 20 assists in this game, which is a number that we'll continue to bring up because it's improving a lot. And B, that number going up kind of shows what we were talking about. When that number's real low, the level of play looks bad. When it starts to go up, the offense looks a lot better. You're sharing the ball. You had
who on the Texas men's basketball coaching staff or roster is watching All in Horns, because it's kind of like they're doing the exact things that we said they needed to do to improve. And now they've looked no better throughout the regular season than they have through these last stretch of 5 games.
Yeah. And they had, I think 5 players with 15 points and above
also
in this game.
89 points, Jake, and they had a 6-minute scoring drought.
Yeah, in that first half. But here's my favorite.
And then 2 minutes going into the second half.
Here's my favorite thing about this game, though. Texas could have scored 0 points in the first half, and they would have gone to overtime.
That's a good stat. It's a fun stat.
They had 58 points in the second half. LSU had 58 points. But
that's pretty impressive.
I'm not going to try to overtalk a win against one of the lower SEC teams, but to go in there and take care of business in the way they did, to me shows a continued progression of this team. It's not like LSU's been losing by 30 to everyone.
Right.
This was an impressive road win for Texas in a time where we talked about it. You got to beat the teams that you're supposed to beat. Even better if you dominate them like this.
I mean, let's put it this way. Texas was a 1.5 favorite going into the game. The spread was a 1.5 Texas.
I bet that.
Well, you won that bet very easily.
Yeah, very, very easily.
Yeah. But that goes to show where these two teams were supposed to align in terms of the competitiveness of this game, and Texas blew that out of the water. And so another game that happened over the weekend, just real briefly in SEC play, the best game outside of obviously the Texas LSU game, because who was watching Tennessee Florida instead of watching Texas LSU, but that was a 5-8 matchup or something along those lines, I think, whenever the game happened. So I actually watched the majority of that game, Jake. I said it in a podcast previous to this one that I really thought that Florida is kind of my dark horse team in the tournament. Now, this game didn't change anything, but they did show a glaring need in terms of they have the ability to go on scoring droughts, and Tennessee's defense, if they face a team that plays with the physicality of a Tennessee in the tournament or can rebound like a Tennessee can, then that's a really bad matchup to Florida, because Tennessee dominated in the paint, they dominated on the glass, and they just out-muscled and out-physicalized that team defensively and got Florida really off their groove. I think that's kind of the recipe for Florida. Now, Florida did miss a lot of perimeter shots that Florida or that Tennessee gave them, but couldn't hit on them nonetheless.
Yeah, Tennessee's been the best defensive team in the SEC, if not the best defensive team in the country for large parts of this year. I mean, they've had multiple games of holding teams in the 50s. I mean, they held Auburn to 53. They lost that game, but still, Auburn's one of the best offenses, played really well in that. And it just shows the depth of the SEC this year as well, because I do still think Florida looks that good, but it's really hard to win on the road against good teams. And when you catch a Tennessee on a night where they're scoring decently well, their defense is playing to the top of their level, I think Tennessee can beat just about anyone in the country. But they're also one of those teams who can look ugly offensively at times. And then if the defense isn't there, they can look bad at times. And it'll be interesting to see how some of these teams look come tournament time. If you go based off the non-conference schedule, which plenty of these SEC teams played very tough teams in the non-conference, you would think the SEC is just going to run the NCAA tournament. But as we know from being in the Big 12, where the Big 12 would have years like this, that's not necessarily how it always goes.
No. Now, you might get a team or two that kind of reach the Elite Eight and look like the best teams, but it's not always that easy going into March. And
getting more than two teams in the Elite Eight is really rare and really hard.
And we've seen Pac-12 years where they're really good, and they've got a Oregon State or UCLA or whoever make a deep run, and Oregon make a deep run. I think one year they had 3 or 4 teams in the Elite Eight. The Pac-12 did a couple years ago when UCLA made the national championship game. But anyway, Jake, let's go ahead, flip the script, and go to the women's side of things. A complete domination and owning, a woodshed, pick your adjective. The Texas Longhorns women dominated Texas A&M in a 70-50 20-point win over the Lady Aggies in College Station. They only played them once this year. That was the only game that they were going to play them in the regular season. And Texas definitely took care of business without even really blinking an eye.
Yeah, it really disgusts me the favoritism played towards A&M by the SEC scheduling in all of the sports. They're getting all these home series against Texas where there's only one, and yet they're the ones complaining about it going the opposite way. Yeah. But no, this game was over at halftime. I mean, Texas A&M had 21 points at half. They scored 9 points in the second quarter. And
Texas had 22 in the first quarter, by the way.
Yeah. And it just kind of continued the trend of Texas versus Texas A&M in sports this year. That Lone Star trophy that I can't believe A&M agreed to, that's going to go to Texas every single year because it goes to whoever. We made a joke about that before the year. Like, why would you agree to this? Because you may win. You're going to win in football once in a while. They upset the volleyball team once. They did split basketball, and it doesn't matter. They're getting absolutely blown away in this in the overall standings.
A&M split volleyball and they split men's basketball. They have one total combined win when you think of the home and home series within the series or within the season. Texas is 7-1 against A&M if you count those two half splits as one half and combine them.
Which I believe is how the scoring works.
Yeah, and so it would be 7-1. Texas is owning the 2024-2025 athletic season over Texas A&M. Baseball hasn't started, softball hasn't started. I can only imagine that's only going to get worse from here on.
Yeah, baseball A&M will be favored by a lot.
I'll be curious. Yes, baseball will be favored, but that doesn't mean Coach Schloss isn't going to get his. He might split that series.
No, I'm very glad Pierce is. I believe they only play one series during the regular season, and it is in Austin. But
Shocking.
Yeah, nice to have Slosh here, because if Pierce was here, I'd be like, well, that's a loss, because he got owned by
He got
A&M
dominated
during
by
his
A&M.
tenure
Yeah.
at Texas. And so hopefully
But
Slosh
Jake, with
can
that,
start to turn that.
with that trophy, Jake, don't you think that's going to be like when a recruit visits A&M and says like, oh wow, that you've got 3 Texas A&M trophies in your trophy room. That's really cool. And then they go over and get recruited by Texas and go on a visit. And they're like, oh, you've got 25. Gotcha. Okay. So that's where this is. That's a bad.
I don't even know if those will
recruiting
be
wise.
up in the trophy room and for Texas. They probably don't make the cut.
Well, they probably use them as doorstops, and
yeah.
So they
Sark might have it as
probably
a
about 20 of
paperweight.
those. Yeah, that paperweight on his desk
for all the commitment offers from the number 1 class in
Right.
the country.
It might kind of like be like one of those bookend holders on his desk, where he has like 1 or 2 of them just kind of holding up some playbooks.
I think Elko has one. It just says 20 and then dash.
Yeah,
still in the year for when they win. Yeah,
for when they do win. Maybe,
yeah,
if that happens. Yeah, tough look. But anyway, speaking on the game, Jake. Texas had 4 of their 5 starters finish in double digits. Madison Booker led the team in scoring with 17. Rory Harmon, who has kind of changed her role, which oddly enough, I think really fits her and the style that this team needs her to fit. But she's been more so the distributor, the facilitator, if you will, at the point guard position. And she's really let Madison Booker and Taylor Jones kind of do the primary scoring for this team. But Shea Hawley also had 12, but Roy Harmon, 15 points, 5 assists. She's kind of been the I don't even know if it's kryptonite, but she's been the nail in the coffin for Texas A&M ever since she's joined the Texas Longhorn program.
Yeah, I mean, she's
3-0 against Texas A&M.
Yeah, her consistency plays into that, because she's always consistently a factor on the court. And sometimes the points this year especially have not always followed that, but that's more because Texas has a Madison Booker. They have a Shea Hawley who can come in and fill it in with points. And so she's more of a true point guard now. Mm-hmm. And she really is perfect for that role.
And she was the leading scorer on a team that she led to the Elite 8 her freshman year. And then
I believe they made it to the Final Four.
Final Four? It could, yeah, Final Four. And then she got hurt, got hit with the injury bug, and then the freshman Madison Booker had to step in, and then we were like, oh, we've got like a legit scorer here. And so now these two are going to play together. And Jake, they have 2 losses on the regular season, and they're primed to make a deep run again into the March Madness tournament. I think they're going to have a hiccup and maybe a kryptonite game against South Carolina. We'll really see where this team matches up against South Carolina, and another measuring stick game where obviously they weren't thrilled with the first time they met up with them.
Yeah, it's a big game for them to just come out and kind of right the wrongs of that first game. That first game, if you don't show up and play your A game against South Carolina, you're going to lose. And if you show up and play maybe your worst performance of the entire season, it's going to be as ugly as it was in that first one. And so I think they'll be looking to, at the very least, be competitive, because they can be competitive with South Carolina. Beating them is going to be tough, but they can certainly stay in the game much better than they did. And I think Madison Booker will play much better. That was probably her worst performance as a Longhorn in that game. And hopefully she can play like she did against A&M, 17 points, 13 rebounds, 5 assists, a couple steals, a block, only 1 turnover. That is an incredible stat line.
Yeah.
Think we lost you, Tanner.
Did you go blank?
You went blank for me, but I could have been me.
I got 2 loading circles right next to each other. So I don't know.
Okay, that tells me it was you, because I could see everything. Gotcha. I was kind of looking. I just said, I think we lost you, and then I was like, well, I don't know if it's me or him.
I think the recording, Jake, whenever we air this tomorrow, I think it's gonna be that circle. So
I imagine so, since it's on your side. So it's fine that I just sat here staring at the camera.
Yeah. Anyway, well, that's the episode for everybody. We don't have anything else to discuss, right?
I feel like something happened this weekend. I'm trying to remember. Let me look up my phone.
We talked Texas A&M.
Oh yeah, so I think there was a trade maybe in the NBA, and let me set the table here, because I grew up a Spurs fan. My dad was a Spurs fan. I grew up Cowboys, Longhorns, Spurs, Stars, everything DFW other than the Spurs. And I don't know why that was, but my dad was just always a Spurs fan. So I was a Spurs fan. And Tanner was always a Mavs fan, but we never really had that rivalry that a lot of fans do from the Spurs and the Mavs, just because Tanner kind of respect the Spurs. I like Dirk. And so we always kind of like would root for the other team when we weren't playing each other.
Yeah.
So when I go on, I just was, on my phone Saturday night is like 11:30. I just log into Facebook, and Facebook is a awful place to get sports news. And I see something on my feed that's Mavericks trading Luka Doncic to Lakers, and I was like, "Oh my god, this is a terrible fake storyline. Like, for Anthony Davis and 1 first-round pick, like, this is more ridiculous than when I saw that Arch was transferring to Oklahoma, which I've seen on Facebook before." And I go in, I click it, and sure enough, everyone's just like, this is fake in the comments. And so I move on. Then I log into Twitter like 20 minutes later. I'm sitting on my couch, and then I see what's his face, the new Woj.
Sean.
Shams tweeted out, said, "Yes, this is real." And I was like, well, yes, you definitely got hacked. But then I'm like, this is the same trade I just read on Facebook. And then I see ESPN tweet it. And then I just see everyone, and Tanner's asleep. Tanner is asleep at this point. And I'm sitting here going, what is going on? Because you missed the whole instant reaction on social media, by the way, of everyone going, this can't be real. This can't be real. Mikal Bridges got 4 first-round picks.
5.
This can't be real. 5 first-round picks. This can't be real. KD at 30-something years old got like 9. Like, this can't be real. You figure out it's real, and then I'm just blowing up Tanner's phone. Like, are you okay? Because I'm like, he's probably asleep, but like, he could also be drowning himself right now. I wasn't sure. I was blowing up his phone, like, and it was a legitimate, like, blowing up his phone, not like, ha ha ha, your franchise is stupid, but like, I'm really sorry this happened to you. And then I'll let you take it away from you. That's my perspective. And so then I can't sleep because I feel bad for Tanner, A, and then B, I want to know his reaction. I want to like drive to Texas and just watch him wake up to this news to see how he reacts. And we haven't talked about this like verbally. We've only texted very little about it.
Yeah.
So this is going to be my first time hearing kind of your side.
You got an immediate reaction from me once I read your text, but I got up, it's Sunday morning, and I'm trying to get ready for church. I got 3 girls that need to get up, get dressed, get ready to get, to church. I get in the shower, I get cleaned up. We're about to walk out the door, and I look at my phone for the first time since I turned my alarm off on my phone. And I see 11 texts from Jake, and I'm like, okay, the dude just sent me memes and reels and funny videos. And so I'm not even really looking at it. The very first text I get is WTF ! The second text I get is this real? What is happening? The third one is an actual link to an X post of the trade and what the Mavericks got in return and the actual details of the trade. And then Jake put, "I'm so sorry you have to wake up to this." And then it was, holy crap, I think this is actually real. It was like 30 minutes worth of text where Jake kept going back and forth of, is this real? I don't know if this is real. I'm trying to confirm, is this real? So I'm not only am I just like bamboo, I'm trying to get Christ ready. I'm trying to go to church and like be a good person, and like get my girls, to Sunday school. And I stop everything. And I look at my girlfriend in the room, and she knows Zero, zilch, nothing. She doesn't even know who Luka Doncic is. She doesn't know anything about sports in general. And I said, you're not going to believe it. She goes, oh my God, what? And I was like, my favorite player on my favorite team just traded him away and got scraps, got a complete raw deal out of it. Got completely screwed. Got pennies and dimes worth of it.
Oh, dimes?
Not even dimes.
Pennies.
You got no, not even plural pennies. 1 penny. You got 1 penny in return. You got an aging, injury-prone big man who hasn't had an impact on a team at all. Since like what? Since COVID year? Since the Mickey Mouse Championship? Woo! Congratulations, AD. And no disrespect to AD. I used to love AD. He was a great player. The moment I saw him at Kentucky, I said, yeah, I want Dallas to try to get this guy. I said, get this guy at any cost necessary when he was in college. But guess what? That came at the expense 15 years later for a 25-year-old superstar, generational talent who's going to now reap the rewards of the Los Angeles. Not only do you take away Luka and a 25-year-old 10-year championship window that you've rewarded yourself, you've made it to 2 conference championship finals. You've made it to an NBA finals. The only next step to go up from there, while he still hasn't approached the prime of his career, is winning a championship. Not only winning a championship, maybe 2, maybe 3. Maybe you go on a Dwayne Wade, Chris Bosh, LeBron James kick on a parade and you say, not 1, not 2. He would have had me full. I would have believed it. I would have believed everything he said had he done something like that after he wins a championship to Dallas. But not only do that, you take away 10 years of hope and optimism and saying, you know what? The roster might be hurt right now. We just got to get healthy in time for playoffs and make a play-in game. And as long as Luka is out there, Dallas has a chance to win a championship for the next 10 years.
Minimum.
That's all we need. That's all you need to do as a franchise. You can build different pieces. Kyrie's gone. Okay, you can bring somebody else in. Oh, you can trade away Jalen Brunson. That's perfectly fine. You've got Luka. You can trade away Kristaps Porzingis. That's fine. That's not a big deal. I'm not worried about that because you got Luka to do that with. You can mix and match pieces throughout for the next 10 years. You can do that until he's like 35 and probably has some blood clots because guess what? He's not in the best shape, but that's okay. Never needed to be in best shape. He's still the best player on the floor. And now you've paired him with, of all teams, dude, if he went to the Spurs, I would be perfectly fine with it. If he went to the Rockets, I'd be perfectly fine with it. If he went to the Boston Celtics, I'd be more okay with it than sending him with LeBron James and Bronny Jr. and JJ Redick in Los Angeles. Not to the Clippers. You could have sent him to the Clippers. I would have been okay. Go. Okay, you know what? You can play with Kawhi or whoever's still playing. I don't even know who still plays there.
Kawhi doesn't play basketball.
That's also true. Nico Harrison is a dead man. He's a dead man. I'm not threatening him. I'm saying in my brain, he does not exist. You can say the name and I won't know who it is.
I think he's dead to Jason Kidd too. Have you watched any clips from that yet?
The fact that you not only made the deal you made. Not only did you make the deal you made, you didn't tell anybody about it. You didn't tell Luka. You didn't tell Coach Kidd. You didn't tell the team. You didn't tell the press. You didn't tell your other department heads. You made this sole decision by yourself because not one person said, you know what, Nico? I don't think this is a particularly great idea. Do you understand the repercussions that's going to come from getting Anthony Davis, who has played a full season the last time in 2017? Maybe that's not a great trade because I think somebody in his team would have stepped up and said something to him to make him not pull this trigger. Something had to have happened other than Luka Doncic is a little out of shape. But now you're going to team him up with LeBron in the purple and gold to the bad guys, to the evil empire of the Los Angeles Lakers. That's sickening. And then you go about it a horrible way. You don't tell anybody. You blindside everybody as though it's an elimination tribal council and on Survivor. You're just going to blindside them and not tell anybody. So now Luka will never come back, even if you're gone. even if that relationship is mended at some point in the future. He's never coming back. You also cost the poor kid over $100 million in a Supermax deal that he can no longer sign.
That he was going to sign.
That he was going to sign for the Dallas Mavericks.
He loved Dallas. This is my thing too, just to chime in here a little bit, is Luka loved Dallas. That's clear. In his first little video to Lakers fans, he said the word y'all. He had become a Texan.
Yeah.
He loved the Mavericks. He truly wanted to win in Dallas. If you conceived a child when the Mavericks were in the finals against the Celtics, that child would not be born yet, and he is no longer on the Mavericks.
Yeah.
It is crazy. It's the craziest trade in the history of sports. It's the worst trade. Here's my thing is I had a friend who was trying to
Louisiana purchase, man.
I had a friend who was trying to tell me, like, you got to let trades play out. Not this one.
No.
Because there are already reports that other NBA teams are furious because they're like, we would have given way more to get him but we were not notified. Like, this just happened. No other teams knew this was going on or was a possibility.
It's terrible business. It's just bad business. It's a bad trade, but it's bad business in terms of how you handled the business and then what you got out of it. It's a terrible trade. You set your team up for failure for the next 10 years. And this Mavericks roster would be great in 2017. You've got a 2017 NBA Finals championship caliber roster on your team in 2025.
Did you see that Luka just bought like a $15 million house in Dallas last week? And apparently he was like distraught when he got told he got traded. And this was like, I don't keep up closely with the Mavericks. This was just like you were completely blindsided, correct?
There's never been a trade that has gone down like this and gotten so little in return and has turned an entire sport upside down on its head when it comes to a single player trade. We've never seen it in the history of sport.
Herschel Walker, maybe?
Not even, because you got a return out of it.
Yeah, but I mean, the return was greater than the player. Like, getting Herschel Walker was not worth that amount.
Not
just in the fact of like how much you gave away for that player.
And then you had the Ricky Williams trade for the Saints, where you literally traded every single first round or every single draft pick you had in that year's draft to trade up a couple spots to get Ricky Williams and for the Saints, and didn't pan out. You would put Herschel Walker, Ricky Williams, and the Luka trade all in a package. I'm picking the Luka trade being hands down the most insane, one-sided, blindsided type trade that we've seen in sports history, not basketball history, in the world of sports. You combine every sport known to man. There's never been a trade this tantalizing and this deceitful and this just treasonous to a fan base.
There's a Luka Doncic day in Dallas.
Dude, that's
real.
Luka hasn't even won a championship, and he's got just as much recognition in the city as Dirk Nowitzki does.
Yeah,
he didn't even spend a decade there.
And Dirk and Luka were close. I mean, it's just
Cuban said
this is a psyop.
Cuban is not on part of the ownership anymore,
which you should be mad at him.
Which you should be mad at, because the ownership that he sold it to allowed this to happen. Had he been owner, Mark Cuban would have never allowed this to happen. He said there was 2-3 years into Luka's career. He said, if you gave me the choice of trading Luka or Luka playing somewhere else aside from the Dallas Mavericks or divorcing my wife, I'll see you in court. He was committed to Luka, and Luka realized that as a player and said, yeah, I'll play for you forever as long as I have that belief in you. And then you go around, you sell the team and that ownership, these casino mongrels who apparently now are so involved in the politics of Dallas, Texas, that they're thinking about moving the team to Vegas and being
I think that's why they did this. I truly do.
And it is a disgusting, deceitful, treasonous way to treat a fan base. It's dishonest. It's disrespectful. Jake, there were times where this front office got completely screwed by deals, whether that be Rajon Rondo, Chandler Parsons, making bad decision after bad decision. You let go Tyson Chandler after you win a 2006 NBA Finals, who was a huge role in winning that title for you, and you just let him walk for nothing, essentially. You completely fumble the DeAndre Jordan in his prime debacle. You had Dwight Howard in his prime coming right off of an Orlando Magic run to the NBA Finals. You had him in your back pocket to pair with Dirk Nowitzki. You fumbled thing after thing after thing after thing after thing. But guess what? You did two good things really, really well that kept fan bases loyal, optimistic, and hopeful for the future in terms of not turning their back on you when you do something stupid in the front office. You've done a lot more bad than you have good in the front office of the Dallas Mavericks over the last 20 years. You did two things. You got Dirk Nowitzki a championship, and you traded for Luka Doncic on draft night. Those are the two good things you've ever done in your franchise. And now you just got rid of one of them, and Dallas fans will never forgive you for it.
Period. And not only got rid of him, but the return for me. It's one thing to trade him, which is crazy in the NBA to trade that young of a superstar. You know, I think of as a Spurs fan, like when Kawhi left, for me, that was like really killed my interest in the NBA. But that was player. That was the player doing his own thing. This is a franchise screwing a player and a fan base all at the same time. Makes Jerry Jones look smart, which is really hard to do.
And I'm glad you brought that up, because not only am I a Mavericks fan, I'm a Dallas Cowboys fan, and we've been going through it for going on 30 years here pretty soon. This will be big number 3-0 for us, baby. It'll be big number 3-0 for us, for this Dallas Cowboy franchise to not reach a conference championship game. And not only are you hiring Brian Schottenheimer as your head coach, and you're firing guys that you got no direction as to where the identity of your football team is or where your front office is. You go ahead and you're going to smear and wipe my crusty ass with Nico Harrison to boot, to top me off. Thanks a lot, Dallas. Thanks a lot for nothing.
Go Stars.
All right. I'm announcing my NBA free agency fandom, something I've never done. I've never switched teams. Since the day I was born, I've been a Longhorn fan, I've been a Cowboys fan, I've been a Mavericks fan since Steve Nash and Michael Finley and Dirk Nowitzki was kind of where the beginning of my upbringing was. I was playing NBA 2002 with the Mavericks. They were my favorite team to play with. Absolutely loved them. I'm denouncing the Dallas Mavericks, and I'm open to the NBA free agency fandom, and I'm going to stay in Texas. I'm not going to Houston, because why? So that really only leaves one option, a franchise that I have respected for very, very long. I do think they need some help, and if I'm going to say my first criticism as a fan, get rid of Popovich. But I will be signing with the San Antonio Spurs.
We also like to get foreign players that are really good. We have one right now who's really young, and the Spurs are not going to trade away for an old player and one first-round pick. I feel confident in saying that due to the fact that people have tried to recreate the Luka trade in 2K, which is not a very realistic game. And it will not even allow it because they're like, this is way too stupid.
No one in their right mind would be stupid enough.
Why the Mavericks, which by the way, why the Mavericks didn't call the Spurs, who had 9 first-round picks, and go, what would you give us? Because the Spurs would have said, you can have all 9 first-round picks.
You can have 9 first-round picks.
Without hesitation. And I would do that as a Spurs fan. Pair him up with Wembanyama. Oh, yeah. I'll watch that.
You sent him to the worst franchise you could have sent him. There is not a franchise that would be worse. I would rather him be in Boston. I really would.
Well, yeah, because at least he's in the East. And here's my theories. I have 3 theories, maybe 4.
Conspiracies or theories?
I don't even think these are conspiracies.
Okay.
1, the NBA forced this because ratings are down. And Lakers drive ratings, and making this type of trade brings the most attention to the NBA we've seen in years. And you think that Luka Lakers jersey is not going to sell like absolute craziness? It is. So either the NBA forced this somehow internally. Nico Harrison here's two. Nico Harrison, and these first two could go together. Nico Harrison is a Lakers operative working in the Mavericks office, and just waited until midnight one night when he was drunk and decided to just make it obvious. Three, these first three could all go together. The ownership of the Dallas Mavericks now, because Mark Cuban sold it off, which this is why you do not do that, wants to move to Vegas, knew this would just kill the fan enthusiasm, kill the future of the franchise, because they're not getting their way in making a casino resort in Texas. So this is the move to get it to Vegas. Or, and this is one of my favorite ones, Jerry Jones did this in the shadows to get the attention off of him, because there's so much negative press in Dallas right now about him. And if there's one thing Jerry doesn't like, it's negative things being said about him.
Yeah.
And now Jerry doesn't even seem that bad anymore. As bad as the last, however it's been, the Cowboys have never done anything this stupid. Not even close. And the Cowboys have done some really stupid things.
Speaking of the NFL, Jake, let me ask you, I'm going to throw out a handful of hypothetical trades, and I'm going to just see if you would accept them or not.
As Jacob Jimerson or as Nico Harrison? As
anyone you want to be.
Okay, I'll switch in between
Jets
trades.
ownership. You could be the Jacksonville Jaguars ownership for all I care. Pick one of the worst franchise ownership teams, ran franchises, organizations in any sport, combine them, and see if you would pull off these trades. Okay. I'm going to say Joe Burrow for Aaron Rodgers and a 4th-round pick.
As Jacob Jimerson, no. As Nico Harrison, though, I just want to do this one. I would say no, because I would want Aaron Rodgers, but I'd want a 4th-round pick in 4 years instead of one right now.
Yeah.
For the future.
You know, you need an injury-prone veteran who was once an all-star and won a championship that one time. And, you know, he's way more valuable than a guy who can lead you and give you a 10-year window to win a Super Bowl. But, yeah. How about Lamar Jackson and a 7th-round pick in just Lamar Jackson. But you get in return, if I'll send you Lamar, or you send me Lamar Jackson, and I'll send you instead, let's see, Matthew Stafford and a 2027 6th-round pick.
Okay, I'm going to do this one as the Dan Snyder Washington franchise. I'm going to laugh at you and hang up the phone.
Okay. Are you going to call me an R word?
I can't get in the mindset of Dan Snyder, but probably going to call you something fairly derogatory.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Sounds good. Okay. Last but not least, Jake, I get Josh Allen from you. Okay. You send me Josh Allen, but in return, I'm going to send you Sam Darnold off of his best season as a professional quarterback. And, you know, maybe next year's 5th-round pick.
Oh, that one sounds pretty. Sam Darnold looked pretty good.
He looked good in
Josh Allen hasn't gotten to a Super Bowl.
Yeah.
What have you done for me lately?
Right. What have you done for me lately?
Bump it up to no, I'm not. I can't even entertain that.
Yeah.
The trades you just said, especially to me, the Burrow for Rodgers one, fairly comparable. Anthony Davis probably playing better right now than Aaron Rodgers is right now. He is averaging like 29 points a game, but it doesn't matter. You traded in his early 20s, bona fide superstar, top 5 player in the league, who just took you to the NBA Finals less than a year ago.
And 2 seasons before that to a Western Conference Finals, who lost to the eventual NBA champions in the Golden State.
2 out of the last 3 years you've lost to the NBA champions. This would have been like
I mean, it's Josh Allen getting traded for Aaron Rodgers.
The Dallas Stars trading Jake Ottinger after their recent runs.
Yeah.
For
Sidney Crosby.
Like Vasilevsky. I'm going to do same position, but Mason Crosby and just have no goalie.
Yeah.
Like something like something like that. Not even Sidney Crosby, because he's one of the like greats, but like
who's the Saint Bodivard guy or Saint whatever his name is?
Or you could even say, because like a lot of people want Stars to trade for Patrick Kane. Again, Kane probably a little higher than Anthony Davis.
What about like a Martin Fleury? You know, it would be someone who's 50 years old in goal. But let's go ahead and make that trade. So. All right, Jake, I'm done with it. That was actually kind of therapeutic in a way to kind of get that off my chest. I wrote it out. I wrote my thoughts out earlier, posted them on X, posted them on Facebook as well, announcing my NBA fandom free agency. But yeah, I think I'm officially going to sign on with the Spurs, and I'm not going to claim their history. I will always claim Dirk as one of my own. I will always be a Maverick fan up until 2025. And this is the day that I have become a full-on Wemby supporter. You know who I've always given crap about is Chris Paul. He's one of my favorite players. I might buy a jersey. And so, yeah, you know,
I can't
DNA.
I will just say last thing is I can't normally I'd be like, you can't do. No. I honestly don't know how a Mavericks fan could be a Mavericks fan
and be optimistic about any type. It can be optimistic about anything. Even if you end up you get a really healthy AD, Kyrie, Klay Thompson next season with the Daniel Gafford. Say you do get those guys that are healthy, play 70 games in the regular season each, get into the playoffs fully healthy, ready to go, and you make a run even to a Western Conference Finals, it won't be satisfying.
No.
Because you wanted to do that with Luka. You wanted to do that with that player. You were loyal to 77.
And you've already done runs with Luka. And sometimes it takes a little bit to get, but you've already seen the progress from making the playoffs, kind of getting to the second round, get to the Western Conference Finals, get to the finals, realize you're still missing some stuff. Luka probably needs to improve in, the defensive area, things like that. But to just get rid of him, and then for nothing, that, I think even if you got rid of him and got a return that was worthy of Luka, it would still be really hard to grapple with, but fandom could at least continue on eventually. But for the lack of return back, it makes it truly impossible.
I would be excited for the next 10 years if you ended up getting 9 first-round picks out of it.
Yeah, it's like, okay, well, I guess, just this like group of front office just saw the defensive issues in the finals and went, okay, well, he's still kind of, having in shape issues, things like this. And they just want to go a different direction to try to win championships. And now you have the return to do that over the next 10 to 15 years. That you could rationalize it. This isn't possible to rationalize.
No, not even a little bit. All right. I'm done. We're done with the topic. Tomorrow's episode will be much shorter since we almost went an hour on this one. And so we'll run through tomorrow's episode for you, everybody. But thank you for listening. Please like, share, subscribe. And I hope my fellow Maverick fans that happen to be Longhorn fans listening to this, this was a bit of a therapeutic, venting session. I hope you paused my video and had a rebuttal, or not even a rebuttal, but just to stack on, because I don't think there's a heavier pile of what that should be hovering over Nico Harrison's head. But yes, let's call this one what it is. Tuesday through Saturday, we release these episodes at noon. Please like, share, subscribe. Thank you for listening. And as always, this is your daily fix for all things Texas Longhorns right here on All In Horns, brought to you by Rogue Sports Network. That's Jake Jimerson. I'm Tanner Carlson. And as always, hook 'em.
All in Sports Network. We love sports.